Shalom, shalom. I'm going to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well and teach sound doctrine. Peace and salutations to the elect, scattered across the four corners of the planet Earth, pushing its truthfulness, sincerity, and meekness, risking your lives and freedom to do so, as commanded by the Spirit and power of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakodash. And also to the Israelite foreigners that look like the heathen nations, but come from the seed line of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. To you I say shalom as well. Okay, as you see on the screen, it says U.S. comments on Russia's Ukraine invasion. Okay, so in the news for like the last couple of weeks, okay, the U.S. and Russia, you know who Russia is. You know Gog and Magog, okay? You can get that in Ezekiel 30, 38, okay? And or 36. I always forget which one it is, Salakia. But Russia, Gog and Magog, they play a big part in the downfall of America, Babylon the Great, okay? And the Lord is putting the spirit on them, to get shit popping, man. Cause America is on its way out of here, man. Okay? And both of those nations, America and Russia, they're both ran by Edomites, okay? They're controlled by Edomites, so-called white people, all right? Yeah, the ones that put you Negroes, Latinos, the Seminole Native American Indians into captivity and have raped, robbed, and murdered you since the beginning of time, man. Okay. But then I want to get straight into it, okay? Cause we're just gonna get into it, okay? It says the U.S. doesn't believe Russian President Vladimir Putin has made a decision to invade Ukraine. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan has said in wake of his week's video link talks with the U.S. President Joe Biden. Okay, so Putin, if you go check his background, okay, this man he's a cold-blooded killer, man. And you could just, you could type in, most people say they're conspiracies, but nothing is a conspiracy, man. Okay, the word conspiracy, that's even in the scriptures, okay. But nowadays, people say you're a conspiracy theorist just to throw you off. Basically, they don't believe in the truth, man. All right, that's all that is. It says, we still do not believe that President Putin has made a decision to further invade Ukraine, Sullivan told reporters at the White House on Tuesday. Okay, so the whole thing, I've read that, the America has made an agreement with Russia back in the 90s that they will no longer expand closer to to Russia's borders. But now, ever since the night, you can look it up on the map. All right, I'm not gonna do it. You can do it yourself. But you can compare NATO's expansion from the 90s till now. Okay, they've grown. They've grown. They have expanded. All right, and now, these Edomites don't keep their word. Look how many peace treaties they done broke with Gad. Look how many peace treaties, not even peace treaties, but look how many promises they gave to the nation of Israel. And reneged on them, okay? That's just the spirit of an Edomite, man, okay? What is that, Psalms 58? The wicked are estranged from the womb. As soon as they be born, they go speaking lies, man, all right? It says what President Biden did was lay out very, very clearly the consequences if he chooses to move. The Biden administration has previously accused Moscow of planning an invasion of Ukraine in January, which the Kremlin has rejected as fake news. Okay, and Ukraine is on the borderline of Russia. Okay, so Russia wants to expand its territory as well. All right, and meanwhile you got China, Moab, Chinese. Okay, they're about to invade Taiwan. All right, so they're backing America, Babylon the Great. They're putting their backs up against the wall, man. All right, so when your back up against the wall, what you gonna do? You gonna fight, okay? So that's what the Lord is doing right now. Okay, the Lord said he's a man of war, man. Exodus 15:3. Okay. It says the Biden administration has previously accused Moscow of planning an invasion of Ukraine in January, which the Kremlin has rejected as fake news. On Tuesday, Sullivan, who was on the call with Putin, said the U.S. was ready to fortify our NATO allies on the eastern flank with additional capabilities, which he did not specify in case Russian troops crossed into Ukraine. Okay, didn't specify. Why wouldn't you specify? You know. It says he would not disclose specific sanctions and measured the U.S. Salaki, I'm gonna read that again. He would not disclose specific sanctions and measures the U.S. threatened Russia with, but said that the things we did not do in 2014, we are prepared to do now. Okay, and who was ruling Babylon in 2014? Barack Obama. Okay, I used to think, he was a Hamite, but if you look into his lineage, he goes back to, Dick Cheney, who was an Edomite, okay? He's from the same lineage. So I don't know, he could be a Hamite, he could be an Edomite, okay? He's not a Negro, all right? It says, answering a question about the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline, which would transport natural gas from Russia to Germany once it receives approval by regulators in Berlin, Sullivan said that it was not leverage for Putin at the moment, but leverage for the West instead. Gas is not currently flowing through Nord Stream 2, Sullivan said, and if Putin wants to see it flow, he will refrain from invading Ukraine, he claimed. Okay, so, and Russia is controlled, they're not going to tell you that Russia is control of the gas and the natural resources, okay? And, I'm going to get the next article, all right? This is on the 10th of December. The other one was on the 7th of December. It says Russia warns of new Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay. And the Cuban Missile Crisis, Russia was back. Russia backed Cuba when America was going against Cuba. All right. But that's just the spirit, Hey, man, this wasn't that long ago either, man. Okay. The Lord said America will continue for a short space. That's in Revelation 17. All right. And that short space is up, man. It says rapidly deteriorating ties between Moscow and Washington could return the world to a tense standoff between nuclear powers not seen for more than a half a century. Okay, that's 50 years. Russia has warned amid strained relations. Speaking on Thursday, Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei told journalists that the current tensions could lead to a situation of the scale of the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. If, as they say, this is in quotations, if, as they say, the comrades on the other side do not understand and everything continues as it is, we may well, according to the logic of events, suddenly wake up and see ourselves in something similar, right? All right, and this is all biblical prophecy, man. And the Lord is doing all of these things, man. He said, I'm going to get that. I want to get a video as well, Lord willing. The Isaiah 54 verse 16. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire. Who created it? Yahweh Bashim Awashai. Okay, who the world ignorantly calls God, whose true name is Yahweh, and his son Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls JC. Okay, they created these things. Okay, they created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire. Okay, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work. Okay, you ever seen men doing? I wish I could I could put a video up, but in the ancient in ancient days, okay, it was a certain way that you created things, like in case you wanted to make let's say a sword. Okay, you would have to put it into fire and form it through the through it while it's hot. Okay, you have to form these things through fire. Okay, it says, behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals and the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his hand for his work. And I have created the waster, okay, to destroy. And what is that? Let's go into that word waste. It says to destroy, corrupt, go to ruin, decay. All right. And what is going, what's going to be wasted? America, Babylon the Great. All right. Revelation 17, 18, 19. Okay. Revelations 14. All right. Let's get back to it. It says, according to him, if relations worsens to this extent, it will be a failure of diplomacy. Though he stressed that there is still time to try and come to an agreement on a sound basis, referring to Moscow's hope of receiving guarantees that NATO would not expand closer to Russia's borders. There is nothing but blackmail, threats, and sanctions in the American foreign policy toolkit when it comes to Russia, right? Okay. Biden said, just look, we got to keep up with these things. Scriptures say, be ye circumspect, okay? Redeeming the time because the days are evil. That's Ephesians 5:15, okay? And it also says in Ezekiel 3:17, Son of man, I have made thee a watchman, all right? So we're supposed to watch out for Bible prophecy, man. And how do you do that? You watch Esau Edom, man, all right? It's like watching a fucking kid, man. All right, and he truly is a kid. All right, he doesn't know how to control, and he doesn't know how to rule a nation. All right, he doesn't know how to, he doesn't know how to do a lot of shit. Okay, Jake taught him, and when I say Jake, I'm talking about the tribe of Judah. Okay, everything he learned was from the tribe of Judah, man. Okay, when he was up in those Caucasus Mountains, after the fall of the Roman Empire, okay, which split into two. Okay, the pagan Roman Empire, Salakia, was driven up into the Caucasus Mountains, okay, by all these, these nations, okay? And when I say nations, I mean the melanated nations, okay? They were driven up into the Caucasus Mountains, okay? And Jake went up there and civilized them. They didn't know how to walk, talk, eat, bathe. Okay, you can get that at Job 30, all right? So Jake taught these men, they not even men, okay? They taught these vile beasts everything they knew, okay? But, he took these things and, he took it and now he's ruling it with pride, okay? And, the scriptures always say the Lord hates pride, man. All right? But that's another topic. But it says there is nothing but blackmail, threats, and sanctions in the American foreign policy toolkit when it comes to Russia. And how would you react if somebody, blackmailed you, threatened you, and sanctioned you? Okay, you will feel offended, man. You wouldn't let that go. All right, you're gonna forgive, but you're not gonna forget. All right, you probably won't even forgive. All right, you're gonna hold it in. And you're going to wait for the perfect time to let off on these motherfuckers, man. All right? That's like, say you get into a fight, with one of your enemies, all right? You take a L, all right? Then he start talking shit. Okay, you're going to wait until, you're going to wait it out. Okay, you're going to wait for the perfect time to get your revenge. And that's what Russia's going to do. All right. It says, but this is not the language we perceive, the diplomat said, adding that avoiding crossing Moscow's red lines will spare the unleashing of a confrontational spiral. Okay. Ryabkov's remarks come after Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke via secure video link with U.S. counterpart Joe Biden on Tuesday. According to a readout of the call provided by the Kremlin, Moscow said it is seriously interested in obtaining reliable and firm legal guarantees, ruling out the U.S. further expansion into Eastern Europe and the stationing of offensive strike weapon systems in countries adjacent to Russia. Okay, so these weapons are on the borderline. They're close to Russia. Let's go into that word adjacent. It says adjoining to, next, having a common vertex or in a common side. Okay, so they're near Russia. All right. It says Moscow's top diplomat Sergei Lavrov raised concerns last week, claiming that significant units and armaments from NATO, okay, which is part of the beast system, okay, NATO and the EU and America, and it's gonna go into it. Okay, it's about this spirit. It says significant units and armaments from NATO countries, including America and British. Okay, and America is nothing but a branch of the British, Great Britain. All right. He even, that's Revelation 17. Even he is of the seventh and is the eighth. Okay, I could be, roughly paraphrasing that. Okay, because America came from the as a branch of the British. Okay, and Britain is called, Britain, Great Britain rules America. It still has control of America. All right. Okay, so it says significant units and armaments from NATO countries, including American and British, are being moved closer to our borders. He accused Western partners of encouraging officials in Ukraine, which hopes to join the bloc, to engage in anti-Russian actions. This could spiral into an actual armed conflict, Lavrov warned. Concerns over the deployment of atomic weapons in Europe, okay, has long been a point of contention for Russia. In 2019, Putin warned that if both countries deployed nuclear-capable missiles on the continent, this would lead to an escalation of tensions unseen since 1962, when the U.S. threatened to attack Soviet ships rather than allowing them to send nuclear missiles to Cuba. Hey, man, the Lord is about to do a mighty work, man. Okay, Babylon is going to be done. I'm gonna get another one, another article. Okay, and then I'm gonna go into some scripture. It says Russia. This is on the 7th as well, December. It says Russia reveals what Putin asked of Biden. In a frank and business-like conversation, Russian President Vladimir Putin asked his U.S. counterpart Joe Biden for guarantees that NATO won't expand further east or deploy offensive weapons to countries like Ukraine. And I'm gonna look up NATO expansion. I'm gonna look that up real quick. Which one is it? Yeah, it's the same thing, but hey. I'm gonna go to this one. Okay, look. Ever since the 90s, okay, in the green, okay, you only had 2 countries, all right? Not even 2. You had 1 country. Well, you had multiple countries, Slovakia. But as you see, when it comes to the light green, in 1999 to 2020, they're expanding. Okay, ever since 1949, they've been expanding. Okay. Now I think Ukraine, I want to say is, I could be wrong. Slovakia. I think it's this area right there between, on the right hand side of the lime green and the green. Okay. And get back to the article. It says Moscow is seriously interested in obtaining reliable and firm legal guarantees excluding NATO's further expansion eastward and deployment of offensive strike weapons and systems in countries adjacent to Russia, the Kremlin said in a readout of Tuesday's call between 2 leaders. Okay, I'm gonna skim through this. It says Putin's proposal came in response to Biden's concerns about Russian troops allegedly threatening Ukraine and threats of U.S. and allied sanctions against Russia, a subject that arose during the 2-hour call. The Russian leader responded that it was NATO making dangerous attempts to conquer Ukrainian territory, the beast, okay, and building up its military potential at our borders. When asked about this, Biden's national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, said that the U.S. has made no such commitments or concessions. Putin used specific examples to illustrate the destructive policy of Kiev, which he said was aimed at completely dismantling the Minsk agreements and the Normandy format talks. He also expressed, it says, which he said was aimed at completely dismantling Minsk agreements and the Normandy format talks. So once again, America speaks with a forward tongue. All right, they lie. Okay. He also expressed Moscow's serious concerns about provocative actions by the government in Kyiv against the residents of two breakaway regions in eastern Ukraine. Okay. Go down some more. It says American and Ukrainian officials have repeatedly accused Russia of plotting to invade its neighbor in recent weeks. Earlier this month, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken implored Moscow to de-escalate its purported aggressions against Kyiv or face severe consequences. So imagine somebody threatening you when they're coming upon, they're breaking they're breaking their word. They're not holding their word, okay? And now they threaten you. You will, once again, you will feel offended, man. All right? And that's America, man, the pride, man. That's why it says America, he speaks as a lamb, comes to you as a lamb, but speaks as a dragon. All right? It says Russia has repeatedly denied allegations put forward by Western officials and outlets that it will launch an offensive against Ukraine. Kremlin Press Secretary Dmitry Peskov has blasted the accusations as groundless, dubbing them as hysteria whipped up in the Anglophone and Ukrainian media. Okay. Meanwhile, Ukraine's hopes to be admitted to NATO and the potential eastward expansion of the U.S.-led military bloc. Okay, the U.S. leads the NATO, okay, have been a point of contention for Moscow. Ahead of the video conference, the Russian president announced that he will request discussions with NATO to ensure the U.S.-led military bloc does not edge closer to this country's frontiers. Speaking last week, Putin said that he will insist on guarantees being set out to exclude the possibility of NATO moving any further to the east and deploying threatening weapons close to Russian territory. And those threatening weapons, like it was stated, they were atomic or nuclear weapons. Okay. It says Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov noted the day before that significant units and armaments from NATO countries, including American and British, are being moved closer to our borders. Okay. So now I want to get this video. I'm going to get a scripture. Okay. I will, with Habakkuk 2:1, I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower and will watch to see what he will say unto me and what I shall answer when I am reproved. And the Lord answered and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables that he may run that readeth it. Okay. And that's what we're doing. We're seeing these things and we're coming to tell you these things, okay, through video epistles, through street ministry, okay, even, face to face, okay, at your work spot, to your family. This is what we're doing. This is what we're commanded to do. We're watchmen. It says, verse 3, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Okay, and part of this vision is nuclear war, man. All right, you can look up the word MAD. I think it's mutual assured destruction. Okay, you can look that up. Okay, that's part of the vision, man. Because all, mutual means is basically together, an agreement. All right, assured means to, it's for sure. Okay, and destruction means to what? Deconstruct. And what are you deconstructing? America. Okay. It says, though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. And it's right around the corner. It's not tarrying. Okay, you got the Charagma, Revelation 13 and 16. Elon Musk said he was gonna start ramping it up in 2022. And now you got this company called Synchrony. They're talking about getting into it. Well, I think they took over. They're leading the way for it. Okay, all these things are gonna happen, man. All right, they're not creating these things for no reason, man. It says, verse 4, behold, his soul, whose soul? Esau, Edom. Okay, the so-called white man. His soul, which is lifted up, is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Right, it's not lifted upright. And upright means righteousness. Okay, Esau is wicked. Malachi 1 verse 4. It says verse 5, and this is going to go into more of who Esau Edom is. Okay, and what is he about? It says, yeah, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keeping at home, and his wine is his philosophy. Okay, his philosophy is you can be a homosexual, a debt-based society. You can cheat on your husband. Okay, you can have many husbands. You can wear mixed fabrics. Okay, you can eat abominable foods. Everything adverse to Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Okay, this is his wine. He is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death. Okay, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. All right, and I'm gonna go down some more. I'm gonna end it. I'm gonna leave it at that. Then I want to get this video.
Biden. Russia has just condemned the flow of what it describes as aggressive rhetoric coming from American.
And this was on, what date is this? The 14th of December, 2021.
Officials. The White House continues to allege Moscow is planning an offensive on its neighbor, Ukraine, citing Russian troop movements near the Ukrainian border. But the Kremlin insists it can move its troops wherever it wants on its own territory and doesn't have any invasion plans whatsoever. RT's Saskia Taylor has the report.
With de-escalation mania at fever pitch, you'd think Putin himself was lining up nuclear weapons and pointing them at Ukraine. In reality, you've got Russian troops doing drills in Russia. Not a crime as far as I'm aware. In the meantime, what are those pointing the finger at Moscow up to?
President Biden approved a $60 million security assistance package. The final elements of that will be arriving in Ukraine this week.
Can you say what those are?
Small arms and ammunition.
Small arms.
President Biden approved a $60 million security assistance package. The final elements of that will be arriving in Ukraine this week.
Can you say what those are?
Small arms and ammunition.
Small arms and ammunition, including, but you won't hear him say it, lethal elements such as Javelin missiles that exist to blow up tanks. Perfect for de-escalation, which, at least publicly, you promise you want. Now, the $60 million is just Washington's Christmas gift to Kiev, the latest bonus. Because this year alone, the White House has delivered almost $500 million in assistance. And while Biden's ruled out putting boots on the ground, Moscow's not so sure.
Ukraine is being pumped up with weapons. We're talking about direct deliveries, about multi-million and multi-billion-dollar contracts for the future in total, about transferring militants under the guise of instructors.
Now, there are one or two voices out there who realize that arming up and cooling down don't often go hand in hand, but they don't have too many fans at the moment.
Germany continues to build the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline and at the same time block our purchases of defensive weapons. This is very unfair.
So, to be clear, the US flying out weapons to Kiev, these are two countries in no way allied officially, is for protection and only fair. But Russian troops on Russian land is a threat that must be contained. Despite countless assurances, the talk of invasion is unfounded hysteria. Because all the Kremlin really wants, after decades of broken promises and threats to fly the NATO flag like a noose around Russia's neck, is a guarantee that NATO's not going to set up camp right next door.
There's zero trust in relation to NATO. Many times we have found ourselves in a situation when something is announced, the day after something else, a year later another thing again, and all this is done as if nothing had happened. And one of the reasons why Russia now demands legal security guarantees on the highest possible level is that so far all of the promises, all the assurances, and even the political obligations have been overturned.
But given how Moscow's previous suggestion to not deploy certain missiles near its European border, as long as Washington and co reciprocate, was met with stony silence, my guess is a deal with NATO's a long shot. Because it turns out it only really likes de-escalation if someone else is doing it. And if it means it can keep its weapons all fired up and ready to go.
All right.
Okay, so you see the spirit that's the Lord putting into the world, man. Okay, the Lord is about to get rid of these, he's about to, the new Jerusalem is on his way, man. Okay, called Lord Yahweh Shem Avashad. Okay, and it's rightly so, man, because these Edomites, they don't know how to rule, man. Okay, and the scriptures say he is as death, man, and Yahweh Shem Avashad is coming to do away with death, man. That's 1 Corinthians 15, the 15th chapter. All right.
Here to discuss our panel today, former UK MP George Galloway and former Pentagon official Mike Maloof in studio here. George, I'll go to you first. With NATO refusing to give Vladimir Putin any assurances, now intermediate range nukes are being considered. When will cooler heads prevail, George?
I'm not sure that they will. On your very show a week or two ago, when President Putin first referred to the red lines, when he said he needed cast iron, copper bottomed, written down, and legally attested guarantees that NATO would not expand into Georgia and to Ukraine, I said that this should be listened to because it's serious and he means it. And
Look
so
at that.
frankly...
Look at the map. That's a spirit. Look at that. And that's in 21 years. Well, 31. Okay.
He'd be a fool not to deploy the intermediate.
Hey, that's Habakkuk. He heapeth unto him all nations, man.
Range nuclear missiles, because the United States and NATO are moving into the intermediate distance with all the firepower that they could want. So he'd be derelict in his duty if he didn't take steps to address that. Now, of course, there would be no intermediate nuclear missiles if Donald Trump hadn't ripped up the treaty, walked out of the treaty. It would not be possible for anyone to deploy these weapons. These kind of rhetorical spasms are real down on the ground, and some months later.
Now, Mike, I see you nodding along. I think you probably agree with some of Georgia's statements. But so far, as far as the Pentagon goes, they say there's not going to be any boots on the ground in Ukraine. But that doesn't mean, as we just saw in Saskia's package there, no supplying of arms. So how might the DOD respond to this latest news?
Well, I concur with what George, the assessment George just outlined.
And look, these are Edomites saying these things, man. Okay. That's why the scripture tell us watch, man. And who are we watching? Esau, Edom, man. All right.
Right here, it is going to accelerate and cause greater arms races, if you will, because there is no more ABM intermediate range ballistic missile treaty.
Yeah.
So, but the Defense Department is going to continue supplying small arms and what have you. Now they're following the and they will continue to try to press. The whole concept of what U.S. and NATO is trying to do is to contain Russia. And this is where the problem lies, and they're going to piecemeal things. Now, the Biden administration apparently has been holding up some shipments. Maybe this is in response to the summit that occurred between Biden and Putin. So I think that because they know that this is going to escalate, and the United States can also well, it's bringing in missiles as well into the NATO countries, and a defensive weapon can easily be turned into an offensive weapon. And this is the problem that we're seeing. So what do you do about that? Who steps in and say, okay, enough? And I think that this is the big dilemma. And right now, as George points out, it's nobody is giving. And as long as Putin and Biden are talking to one another, they're fine. But when Biden gets distracted and goes to something else, like he's going to be going down south here and look at the damage there, then you have Victoria Nuland and staff.
That's scary.
Doing their thing and basically throwing obstructions in the way of any progress. Now, there have been meetings called to discuss these and other measures, and what happens is that they get stonewalled. The Russians get stonewalled.
Yeah, and Vladimir Putin just overnight said he wants to have a face-to-face meeting now.
Face-to-face. When you want to have a face-to-face meeting with somebody, that means you, hey man, that mean you hot, man. Hey, you want to talk to that man, all right?
George.
Like you really want to, like you want to meet face to face. That mean you got intentions on putting your hands on this man, all right?
Yesterday, we heard G7 leaders, specifically Liz Truss, the UK Foreign Secretary, put out what many perceived as an arrogant remark. I'm paraphrasing here, but she basically said the G7 would not allow Russia to move forward with Nord Stream 2 operations. They're holding it hostage, basically, with German approval, pending what happens with Ukraine. The Russians are arguing that Nord Stream 2 is a commercial project and should not be dragged into this fight. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, of course, imagine if it was the other way around. Imagine if Russia was turning off the gas in this bleak midwinter because of political disagreements with the countries it was selling the gas to. Can you just imagine the hue and cry that would ensue? This is a very dark and again dangerous turn of events. Liz Truss is here today, gone tomorrow, a kind of poor woman's Margaret Thatcher posing on tanks and so on, and of course going around the world threatening everyone with America's army because our armed forces would fit comfortably into a mid-table football stadium. So in one sense, you don't have to take what she says seriously, but the tanks, real and metaphorical, are rolling ever closer to Russia's national interests. And all we have are vague assurances delivered by Zoom about a wish for de-escalation. But the reality is something different. I'm reminded, Mike will remember it, you're too young, of Casablanca when General Strasser assured everyone that Victor Laszlo would not be sent to a concentration camp. These assurances are about as cast iron as that.
Now, Mike, the U.S. media here is framing this issue along the Russia-Ukraine border as, you know, Vladimir Putin essentially wanting to conquer Ukraine, if you will. I mean, are they wrong? Is the narrative being put out there for any particular reason?
Well, media is pushing this. They're taking the initiative because they back the Biden administration and NATO in an effort to contain Russia. And this is what this is. In fact, you catch Russian spokespersons reacting to U.S. media all the time, which is wrong. What needs to be done basically is get back to that Minsk agreement and the Ukrainians are not living up to it. And all the Western countries have agreed, yeah, in principle, they need to do that. But nothing ever happens. Yet the United States seems to be quietly encouraging them to violate it. And that's why you're going to have this. And the whole idea is to try to keep that pressure on. You got to remember that even the intelligence community now is shifting back to looking at Russia and China as their main adversaries. So they've got to focus their activities and their policy approaches now that will try to do that containment and assertiveness, short of getting Ukraine or Georgia into NATO. They can't join because by themselves they have a lot of problems. Russia needs to talk to the European countries in a very quiet.
Okay, you see what's going on, man. I'm gonna get this. This is Jeremiah chapter 51 from the top. It says, "Thus said the Lord, behold, I will raise up against Babylon and against them that dwell in the midst of them that rise up against me a destroying wind." Okay, this is talking about America. Okay, Babylon the Great. Okay, it's going to further go into it. "And it will send unto Babylon fanners that shall fan her, and shall empty her land, for the day of trouble they shall be against her round about. Against him that bendeth, let the archer bend his bow." Okay, and that's not talking about a physical bow. Okay, that's talking about a missile. Okay. It says, "And against him that lifteth himself up in his brigandine, and spare ye not her young man, destroy ye utterly all her hosts." Okay, I'm gonna go down. It's verse 6. "Flee out of the midst of Babylon, and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of the Lord's vengeance." Okay, this is the time. Okay, the Lord's vengeance, he had multiple vengeance, multiple types of vengeance. Okay, but this is the time of vengeance, man. Okay, World War III, man. It says, "He will render unto her a recompense. Babylon has been a golden cup in the Lord's hand." See, this is going to go into it. "That hath made all the earth drunken." Okay, all the earth. All the earth wasn't drunken back when Babylon Babylon in the Middle East was in rulership. Okay, but now they are, and you can tell where does all the nations look to? Who do they take their who do they get their ideology from? America, man. All right. It says, "The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad." Right. You got plenty of nations are mad. China, Russia. I had just read the other day that India, the leader of India, had did a deal with Russia because they seen how America just left up out of Afghanistan. Okay. So these nations don't trust Babylon the Great. They don't trust America. All right. It says, "Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her. Take blame for her pain. If so, she may be healed." All right. And this is what I wanted to get. Verse 11. "Make bright the arrows. Gather the shields. The Lord hath raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes." Okay, and who's in the land of the Medes right now? The Russians. All right. "For his device is against Babylon to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord, the vengeance of his temple." Okay, now I want to go to 2nd Ezra, and I'm gonna close out with this, verse 16. I'm going to start at verse. I'm going to start at verse 9. A fire shall go forth from his wrath. Whose wrath? Yahweh Shem Shah. And who is he that may quench it? He shall cast lightnings, and who shall not fear? He shall thunder, and who shall not be afraid? Right. You know, the day of the Lord, who's not going to be afraid of these things, man? Okay. It says, the Lord shall threaten, who shall not be utterly beaten to powder at his presence. Okay. And when his presence is inside of these nuclear missiles, as well as the laser beams from the motherships, the so-called UFOs, all right? It says the earth quaketh and the foundations thereof. Right. What can make the earth quake and the foundations? Nuclear missiles. Okay. The sea arises up from the waves. The sea arises up with waves from the deep, and the waves of it are troubled. Okay. Going into the seismic, you know, the seismic move, you know, impact that these missiles are going to have. And the fishes therefore also before the Lord, before the glory of his power. For strong is his right hand. Whose right hand? Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. That bendeth the bow. Okay. Is he physically, does the Lord physically bend a bow? No. Okay. His arrows that he shooteth are sharp, and he shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world. Okay. And when back then, the ends of the world, you know back during Babylon, the ends of the world, you know, the world was still undiscovered, man. You know, nobody came over here into the Americas until the 10 tribes from the northern kingdom came over here, you know, escaping captivity from the Assyrians. Okay. And they came over here in America. You can get that account in 2nd Esdras. I think that's the 13th or the 14th chapter. Okay. They came over here. And then, you know, Cristobal Colon, an Edomite. Okay. He came over here and raped, robbed, and murdered. Okay. And then put his sword down for an hour. Okay. This was the ends of the world. All right. It says, behold, the plagues are sent, and they shall not return again until they come upon the earth. The fire is kindled and shall not be put out till it consume the foundation of the earth. Like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be sent upon the earth shall not return. And one of these plagues is a nuclear missile, all right? China and Russia, you know, they shot off multiple hypersonic missiles that can go around the world 5 times, all right? This is what's coming to Babylon the Great, man. And, you know, it's all done in righteousness, man. The indignation of the Lord, which means righteous anger, all right? And I'm going to close out with that. You know, Lord willing, this was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father and his only begotten Son, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule well and teach sound doctrine. Peace and salutations to the elect. Kwame Yasharala, Bible Ball.